Quiet on the set. Here we go. Five, four, three, two, one. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Welcome to a special episode of Census Genie. There's Cousin Russ. Now, you gotta know, I did officially retire on the 1st.
Yep. So did we all.
All right. I have to deal with YouTube for 1 second. I want it to play, but I don't want the sound to come up. Well, no wonder Michael Daniels has trouble with the sound. I hear you. Okay. So if we're I lost, there we go. One more thing. Boy, you do have to have your ducks in a row here. So Cousin Russ and I do talk every day. Something new's happening. The biggest news happened at Ancestry. What was the announcement, Cousin Russ?
All names are now indexed on Ancestry and Family Search. There's still a lot of work to be done, but
Mm-hmm.
all the I listened to Krista Cowan's announcement today. Was so excited. They're confident. Their accuracy in what they have done up until this point has been on target enough to put all the names and on the index. I checked to see if I had any hints yet, but since I've already got a lot of my hints taken care of, I haven't gotten any yet. I'll use that word yet, but I'm excited because I still have some people to find and I'm looking forward to it. But
Well,
and all the other fields, if you go to the search engine for this 1950 census, some of those fields won't give you any results, but
not
I'm
yet.
excited.
But
Right.
they got the name matches all done. Now, the reason we're going to focus on Ancestry today has to do with the information that Ancestry makes available to you to help you create a citation. And then we're going to talk about what's wacko or different or special about 36, 37, and 38. Those are different columns, and we didn't go into much detail with them. So I'm glad you brought them to my attention. Do you want to share your screen there, Cousin Russ?
Sure. Uh, this is part of the census, and we came out of retirement because it was a topic that we did not talk about at all during the Census Genie series because
Mm-hmm.
we hadn't really worked with um, the records themselves. Now, I got to tell a story, and it's going to be brief, but I
It's
gave
going to be
my
painful, isn't it?
not really. Uh, it's how you recover from.
Yes.
Uh, I gave a homework assignment to my in-person class. It's all
Mhm.
seniors, so I have to learn how to teach to seniors. And
Mhm.
I gave them a homework assignment, and I failed the instructor because what I had recognized is I didn't tell them to do some things that I normally do. And I've done a couple of blog posts and live streaming on the use of Evernote and what I do when I see a new record and it's information that I cover. So,
Well,
what I
I totally get this next part because you've trained us all to look for more than just the document, but to read everything we can about why that record set was created.
absolutely, and some details about that record collection. So, what I did, and I did this for my class, is I've written out, I've already recorded it and written it out, the details that are provided on the 1950 census. And the best, most clear description that I found happened to be on Ancestry.
Mhm.
It's complemented on the other websites that we talked about during Census Genie, but I
Mhm.
recorded for my class, and they will get a paper copy of this. And the next piece was collect the source information from Ancestry. Again, I found this the clearest for me and hopefully clear for my students. The other reason why I have gone to Ancestry is getting a consistent link, or I can get back to the image that I looked at. Now, in my
Hmm.
citation, I will say image 7 of 35.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
get that consistently on Ancestry because I want to get back to that image in my database. Other thing that I normally do is I copy the source information from Ancestry and put it into my citation notes for that record. Now, what I recognized this time in this collection is the definition of the enumeration district itself. Now, here's an example. I'm not going to comment on the text of the citation, but Myrt will make a comment here in a minute. But but what but what's also provided in the citation information from Ancestry is the definition of the enumeration district. And this is the 4 streets. Now, we did talk about this in CensusGenie, but that
Mhm.
gives us the outline of the map that was used for the enumeration district.
Now you got some funny things there because it says roll number in that upper paragraph, the upper part of the citation, and Ancestry did not look at a roll of microfilm. So we wouldn't I mean, they got the digital images just like we had access to them on Amazon servers. So that's kind of weird. But then talk to me about the sheet number. That doesn't look familiar.
The sheet number has an R in it that we did not see on the image itself. It just said sheet 73, and the example that I have used came from sheet 73. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure what that R is. I know that our discussion about sheet 73 is that's the second go around, the second callback. Why the letter R is there, I don't know.
We don't know.
I'm going to, in my normal workflow, I'm going to change that citation source information into the evidence explained options
Mhm.
that's available in my genealogy program. But the most important thing for me on what is provided in the source information from Ancestry is that enumeration district definition. I didn't have it before, but I do now. I looked at all of them when I used the uh, Steve Morse one step website, because that's where I got all of
Well,
my enumeration districts from.
I'm I'm totally comfortable with taking the description of the record set and what Ancestry thinks the source citation should be. I copy all of that. I gave up using one step and I put it right in the notes for the few 1950 census images that I located because I knew that I would understand it better right there. And I don't know when my daughter looks at my database. I mean, it's for every person that's in that census. But I don't know if she's going to look at it from my grandmother Frances's point of view or my dad's point of view. I want that description of the database and the fake source citation in there.
I,
Um, okay, so that and we're specifically talking about gathering this information from Ancestry because you prefer to use the image link that ends up being more consistent or persistent if you share it with somebody um, over on Ancestry. Let me just mention, it looks like we've got about 5 people watching. Thank you so much for joining us. Sherry's here and Donna's here, and they've both checked in. Let us know where you're coming from and if you've been able to find yourself or who you anticipated finding in the 1950 census. Okay, back to you. Let me put your PowerPoint on full screen. There we go.
Okay, one of the things that I did for my class in preparation is reviewed all 38 questions. I wrote them out, uh, so I knew what the columns headings were. I can see them on the image itself, but I
Hmm.
wanted to write them out, and I took it a step further. I put all of those 38 questions in a spreadsheet, and
Hmm.
what I did is uh, did a recording on my YouTube channel. And what I wanted to do is how what information from those 38 questions are going to end up in my genealogy database. There's a lot of questions that I'm going to ignore for now, and I said that in my recording. Most
Hmm.
the financial stuff and whether it was a farm are not that important to me, and I want to be as consistent as I can about fields that I use across all of the census records. Now, some of them are going to have different questions. That's okay with me. But I went through my list, all 38 questions, and said, I want to record this. I don't want to record that. And, but when I went through those 38 questions, what I recognized is that some of the people ended up on those sample list lines, the lines with the numbers on the left and the right side. And I'll show you that in a minute. But what I did, because I wasn't going to deal with it yet, I wanted to record who was on the sample list and what line number was. And I put that in the task list for that person
Hmm.
so that I could later on go back and look at the sample list and what's on it.
Let me interject here. Donna has made a comment. And she said that her father was listed as never married, but he was actually divorced and he would be marrying her mother on July 1st.
Well,
S-
it's interesting that she has said that because I think we have an example of a situation similar to that and what
Mhm.
I saw when I looked at it. So what we didn't talk about in CensusGenie, because I know I hadn't looked at it. I looked at the images. I did all the training that we did for the past however many months we did this and how many meetings we had. But what you
Mhm.
didn't talk about, one of the unique set of questions, and those are the questions number 36 through 38. And here is question number 36. I bet you that Donna has an entry if her father was on this list and landed with one of those sample list options. Question 36, was the person married in question 12 more than once? So this is where you would find find a person who may have been married more than once. I track that in my database where they have been married more than once, where I can have records to prove that. This is another item that says, oh, you don't have enough marriages for that person if the person was married more than once.
But these had to be people from up above, from the upper portion of the census sheet, where they were on one of those special lines and the number changed from sheet to sheet, where then they would be asked the additional questions,
Correct.
36 through 38. Yeah.
And I will show you that here in a second. I just want to remind what the questions are.
Okay.
36. 37 is if married, question 12, widowed, divorced, or separated, how many years since this event? So if you look at column question 12 and they were widowed, you can find out perhaps how long they have been widowed. Uh, so you have a point
Oh,
to
wow. Yeah.
look back to see, do I have that information? So you looked at question 12 and they say widowed, and if they're on the sample line and a specific question sample line, you will be person will be asked that question. Number 38, and this is the one that I really wanted to find, was if a female, how many children were born, not counting stillbirths. Now, if you remember the 1900 census and the 1910 census, the females were asked a similar question. I always like to look for that. Do I have all the kids that that person had? Or many times I don't have enough kids. And so I always like to look at the 1900, 1912. Now I have one more point to look for in the 1950 census. So those three questions have become interesting for me. And Sherry, I'll answer your question in a moment. Let me show you, rather than talk about what the questions are, let me give you a sample. I spent absolutely zero time looking for this sample, but wait till you see the sample. So there is Rose, and it says never married. That is to the left of the word Italy,
Mhm.
and I verified that it was never, NEV, because up and down that sheet, never was written just like that. So I didn't have to guess what that word was, but it was never, and that's how it was spelled out
Mhm.
consistently. So Rose was never married, although it says wife. But let me
Mhm.
go down, and her column, her line number is 28. That's on the left. It's also on the right. I'm only showing part of that entry. I go down a little bit further. I'm sorry, I pick up that line 28 where it has the 5 in front of it. I don't know what the 5 means, nor do I care. But the yes says she was in the same household, same house the year before. That's what that first column is. That's okay. And I recorded that would record that in the profile 1949 and the county, city, and state where they resided. The two columns over a little bit further that says the father and mother were both born in Italy.
Gosh, I
He,
wish we had that for everyone. I
uh,
missed that in the 1950.
exactly, and that's why I brought it up, because I want to look there, because it's the only place I'm going to see it. Now it's just for that one person. That's just for Rose. But
Yeah.
one of my classmates that I teach, and the example that I have for them uh, gives me a hint of where the mother was born, which confirmed a rumor that she had. But that's a story for a different point in time,
Another day.
for
Yeah.
another day. I don't am not recording the financial information yet. I know if I want to, I can go back. So I'm not going to talk about questions 29 through 33. And here is the one that I want to point out the most is question. The person is 28, as it's been before.
Mhm.
So only 28 answers these questions 34 through 38. Uh, I am not going to talk about 34, 35A, B, and C. I want to talk about 36. Now remember that uh, up here, she was never married. more than once? Yes. That's, to me, is conflicting information that I will have to resolve if this was my person, if I uh, uh, need to resolve the conflicting information. So this says she was married more than once, but apparently she's not the wife of the person above. I don't know. I'd have to find other documentation to prove or disprove that.
Wow.
Number 37 is similar. Uh, 25 years since she was never married. Uh, I More research would have to be done for that. But here is the one question that was focused on when I started this project is that this person had 3 children. So
Love it. Wow.
uh, this is, but only, and in my looking at my database, only the last entry of the sample lines ends up in here, but the numbers will be consistent. You'll see 28, you'll see 28, you'll
Mhm.
see 28. So the line number, it was very obvious for me. Now,
We've got some questions
yeah,
about this.
let me. I'm done. Except one more slide,
Oh,
and
okay.
then
One more.
we'll get the slides, get the questions. So
Okay.
this is. Let me get my cursor back. So this is one of my examples. Uh,
Oh, yes, I forgot this part.
yeah, that's okay.
Sorry.
This is one of mine that I actually had in my database because I went back and I looked at my database. And this is Catherine. She was never married, so she did not have to answer question uh, 36. So that's what I wanted to share. Something again that we did not cover in Census
Mhm.
Genie uh, because we hadn't been working with it. So we can take the questions.
Okay. So, and then I also want to share my screen because my dad got the sample questions,
Oh,
and I want to know if he lied. I know that he was divorced twice by 1950 and was marrying my mother in, I can't remember if it's late May or early June. And I don't know if he lied because I'm not looking down there. I've been looking at houses instead. But let's take the questions. Let's see. So Donna said marriage to my mother was a second marriage for both of them. And I don't know, Donna, if you're saying that one of them got to have a sample question because I think it's so cool. Okay, and then hi Sherry from Central Iowa. She found a person who reported widowed 8 years before. That was a long time to be without your sweetheart. Okay, and then she had a good question. What if a woman had children but not married? You'd still be filling it out, wouldn't you?
they would, they should be filling up those questions. So uh, the question 12 would be the first question, never married.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Mhm.
then if she landed up on the last sample question, question 38 should have said the number of children.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to share your screen again before we can answer Gordon's question. And so if you could get ready to share your screen again. It must have been on one of the where line 28 shows up in the upper part.
Okay.
Okay, and Donna says she didn't think either her parents had a sample question. And then Sherry said, but if the enumerator followed the instruction for 38, if the female and ever married, and is the key word there. Yeah, let's hope the enumerator didn't. I mean, this is really sad that only a few people on the page get to report where their parents were born. That has always been so useful to us in our research. So W is, oh, he wants to know about the coding on 28 or on 38. He did a typo. So,
The question, now I know what slide you want me
okay.
to go to,
Yeah.
and it may be a typo.
Okay. Well, or yeah, it could have been, I have a page up like that for 38. If female and ever married, I think you have a typo, hun. Let me share my screen while you're working on it. Let's see, share screen. Screen is easiest with 2 monitors, share screen. This one, yes, I know. I'm using StreamYard. I'm learning new stuff. Okay, so in this portion of the screen, MARWD or SEP in item 12 up above. That's what we're talking about. So if somebody just wrote W, I'm assuming it's widowed. And they did not follow the instructions too well. That was, let's pull up. Oh, I see I've got to stop so you can see it. There you go. Okay. But not if never married. I do think that the wording on that is difficult. And I imagine that it will be interpreted differently by various enumerators depending on how stringent their crew leader and field operations supervisors were. Oh,
There's a good one for Donna. Now, I didn't cover those questions only because that's, anyhow. Yeah, there was 3 columns: World War One, World War Two, and the third item was whether or not they were active or inactive.
Yeah, I can pull that up. I'm learning how to do this. Okay, share screen again. I used to do this very quickly when I was in Zoom. Okay. So yes, if male. Is that what you're talking about? All right. So let me show you my father. My father is item 3 on this page. Has a circle and he's on at 222 West Comstock. Okay. And it's not a ranch and it doesn't have acreage. Player Dr. Glenn.
It's interesting that it has the doctor in there.
Yeah. He was a lodger there. He was white, male. I'm trying to read the column headings and let you see it. And he was 31 and he was divorced. So we're going to find out if he was honest. I know he was divorced. It said he was born in Washington State. He was not. He was born in Utah. I have his certified birth certificate from Salt Lake County in Utah. And what was he doing? He was working, WK, working. And then 48 hours, no, physician and surgeon. And its own business. He had his own private practice. And then I don't know what those numbers are, but I could look them up. So he's 3 above. And now we'll go down below. Close your eyes so you won't go crazy. Okay, so he's item 3. Was he living at the same house a year ago? No.
That's good information.
Very good. It might help me narrow down when the divorce took place.
Yeah, you knew where he was not.
Yeah, right. Was he living on a farm a year ago? No. Was he living in this same county a year ago?
Oh,
Yes.
that's
And
good stuff.
He's member of the King County Medical Association. Okay, leave all this blank. His parents were born in the United States, which isn't too helpful. I wish they had put that his father was born in Utah and so was his mother, but that's what the rules were. It said he had what grade had he last attended? C1.
College,
Yeah,
first
it
year
was
of
way more
college.
than 1 year of college. He'd already graduated, had taken advanced neurological studies at Cornell University in New York because they had him serve during World War II. He came back afterwards, so that is incorrect. He last year, how many weeks did he work? 52. How much money did he make? He would not say. He would not say last year. He started to say something, but then it's crossed out.
I think the crossed out is, and I've seen it pretty consistent. They were always supposed to use thousands, and they went too many digits.
Like $13,186.
Yep, yep.
Okay. And he did serve in World War II, and at any other time, including the present service, no. So, but let's see what he said about his divorces.
It
I think
won't
I
be
missed
there.
that.
He
Oh,
won't,
it's down below.
and he's not on the right line to
He's
end up
not
down
that
there.
one. He had to
Correct,
be 28 on this page.
correct.
So we had two kinds of sample parts, which we knew about because Joel told us about them, but I totally forgot about this lower part. I remembered this upper sample page section because I was used to that from the 1940, I think. And I just made that very mistake. I was expecting to see something here, but doesn't apply. So yeah, that's pretty good. All right, we've got some more comments. Let's see.
Would you go up to the top to show column question 12?
You bet. Question 12.
Which is right there.
Divorced.
And scroll down. I think Mr. Myrt wanted to know what that question is, just so we see the question 12 at the top, the column
Oh,
heading.
okay. Yeah. The
There we go.
definition there. There you go, Mr. Myrt.
I think it's really funny that across this census record, he was used all of the time. Is he now married, widowed, divorced,
Yeah.
separated, or never married? The breakdown is MAR, WD, D,
Yes.
SEP, and NEV.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that answered Mr. Myrt's question.
All right, let's see what other questions we have. Okay, yeah.
You want to highlight Sherry's?
Okay, sure.
Same with my father-in-law, was on sample line, but was marked as no for serving in World War II, but he served, was in active reserves, and would be called up in a couple years
Oh,
for Korea. Now,
wow.
the no may be correct. It
Well,
depends upon, I don't know how that question addressed active reserves, or was Donna, was your father-in-law active and then went on active reserves, or was they active reserves but then later called up for Korea? So the question may have been answered correctly. I don't know. I'm just saying, to me, if that happened, I would look for other records. And I
of
know
course.
Sherry's going to be Donna is going to be looking for those other records. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that may be the correct answer at the time. And I'm not sure whether I'd have to look at the numerator instructions for that specific question, and we can do that.
Well, and it does say, or any other time, including present service. So
But
a
I'm not.
reserve unit is active, even if they only meet for 2 weeks a year, isn't it? Because they can call you up at any point.
But I don't know how that question will be answered. So I would go now to the enumeration district or an enumerator's manual to look at the details behind that question.
All right. Wow. Well, what a discussion we have had today. So much for being 100% retired, right? Oh dear. Well, I think there's nothing left to say, but thank you so much for keeping me on top of things, Cousin Russ. I am happy to be here and really happy to share the good news that everything's indexed. So this happened while I was looking at houses, this announcement. So I guess what I'm going to do as soon as we hang up here. Going to look for Grandma Myrtle. All US if necessary. Yes, I really missed you. And Sherry, that's why I will, from time to time, but not every day, send a link to new information in the Dear Myrtle group on Facebook, because I think very specifically of you all and want things to go well with your research, because I can't forget where you are in your research. Yeah. And also, let me make a caveat with regard to my previous statement about reserves. I know what the reserves were in the 80s and a little bit from Mr. Myrt being in the Army reserves, but I don't know what the rules were in 1950. And Cousin Russ, I was committing presentism because I was putting the later time frame rules on something that was an institution in 1950 that could have been operating under different rules. So it's all good. Thank you for wishing me luck, Don, and thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being patient at the beginning so I could figure out StreamYard. I haven't used it for a long time, and I really like the ability to switch back and forth and occasionally see Cousin Russ. And nothing left to say but happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.